What up, y'all? What's good with y'all? Y'all been seeing what's going on in the world? I mean, first of all, we got to start off with rest in peace to DMX. DMX came out, I think for me, them late 90s. It's really the soundtrack for me, man, to my whole after high school, early adult years, man. And I think we all loved how authentic DMX was, and that's why it was so easy for us to embrace him despite his troubles. Um, you know, that aside, I really just wanted to talk about Young Buck and all these interviews that he's been doing. Young Buck went on Big Facts with Big Bang Hank or whatever the hell home name is, talking about he's still on some music shit, while at the same time talking about 50 Cent won't let him put music out. He keep taking his music off of YouTube and he won't let him monetize his music. But yet Young Buck is still doing music. Young Buck is doing Big Facts podcast, Vlad TV. He doing No Name podcast. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, Young Buck got access to the top platforms. He got access to the top interviewers. And all he could think about is selling music. He can't even sell music. 50 Cent won't even let him sell music. But this is the only thing he seems to be able to do. You know what I'm saying? With his profile, with his fame and notoriety, he could sell a t-shirt. He one of the few people that could probably get rich off of a t-shirt with minimal effort. He could sell anything he wants to sell. He's going through IRS problems. You could tell he got money problems. You could hear it. It's evident in his interviews. He talking about, I ain't have it how I had it. I was spending this much, and I never had an accountant, and blah 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 blah. We supposed to live and learn. If you living and you ain't learning, you're just a little kid. You know what I mean? You stay a little kid for your whole life because you never develop. And it seemed to me that Young Buck only sees himself as a rapper. So when was that Young Buck first came out? Was that late 90s, early 2000s? I think mentally, Young Buck is still right there. 50 Cent clowns him and trolls him relentlessly. You heard? Relentlessly. 50 Cent put out a tape of him crying, begging to be let back in G Unit, crying about his money problems. I mean, snot coming out of his nose. I mean, you could hear it. You know what I mean? 50 Cent clowning him about dating a transgender or whatever that was. Having a transgender finesse him and get him to her house, record him. 50 Cent put all of that online. Why is Young Buck still talking about 50 Cent? Why is Young Buck still harping on old issues? You know what I'm saying? Young Buck, my advice to you, start a business. You're famous. You're famous. Young Buck, everybody knows you, bro. Do something with yourself besides music. You could do anything. You could troll 50 Cent. You could troll 50 Cent and make money off that. You understand? Why don't you say you wrote Get Rich or Die Trying? Make 50 Cent reply. Because that's the kind of power you got. But you obviously don't realize the power you got. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want to say that, I actually just want to give a message to all of y'all grown-ups out there. Especially y'all grown-up rappers. If you 40, 50 years old and you still trying to rap, I think you might have issues, man. I think you might have issues. I think you need to go another way. I think the same way you're trying to sell CDs, you need to find something else to sell. You heard? That shit is a rap. And Young Buck, don't nobody want to see you on these interviews crying, talking about you making music. Bro, you're probably making music, but ain't nobody hearing that shit. Ain't nobody even checking for you. If 50 Cent said, yo, you're good, I'm going to let you out of your contract, I'm going to let you put up all your music, it's not hitting, bro. Nobody checking for you, Young Buck. Nobody checking for you, bro. And I'm a Young Buck fan. You know what I mean? Buck the World. I'm Cashville, Tennessee. I'm with all that. I was with all that. I was the biggest Young Buck fan. He was probably the best one out of G Unit. You heard? But now, all these years later, 2 decades later, you still online crying and complaining about 50 Cent not letting you release music while at the same time talking about you releasing music? Bro, you sound like a little kid, yo. You sound like a little girl, man. And you know, I need this to find your ears, and I need this message to find your ears, man. Get it together, Young Buck. Sell anything other than music. You're fucking famous, all right? Nobody want to hear that. All right? Tell me what y'all think about Young Buck doing all these interviews, man. Talking about music that he putting out that he can't put out. I think this shit is just ridiculous. But I'm curious to know what y'all think. All right? Take care of yourself for me. And I'm going to take care of myself for y'all. As always, I'm in them comments with you. So I'm always curious to hear what you got to say. All right? Peace.